Yeah, so we've seen some big changes to Ford's local model lineup in recent years. We've seen the addition of some interesting newcomers, obviously the big one being New Ranger, and more recently the Ford Territory, which comes out of China. But we've also seen the departure of some real stalwarts from the company's model lineup over the years. But perhaps the absence that we felt the most keenly here in South Africa has been the removal of the EcoSport from Ford's lineup. The reason being is that we're a nation that seems to love our crossovers, and EcoSport was a great little product. High riding, quite a rugged little thing for what it was, and keenly priced and pretty well packaged. It was an immensely popular model, but now that has also flown the coop. I wouldn't say that what I'm sitting in now is replacing it, but it is Ford's sole compact SUV, or crossover I should say, offering, and it is Ford Puma. And we've spent 6 months in its company to get to know some of its little quirks and intricacies and its features, and it's been time well spent. For those of you that don't know what the Puma is, essentially it is Ford's compact crossover model. It is based on the company's Global B platform. Here in South Africa, the Puma is available in 2 flavors. So you've got the entry-level model, which is the titanium. It's a little bit weird for our naming conventions because usually Ford's titanium label goes on their range toppers, but in the Puma's case, that's the entry point. And then you've got what we're sitting in right now, which is the ST-Line Vignale. Externally, the Vignale has a more sporty body kit on it. It also has model-specific 18-inch alloy rims, and I believe the suspension has been firmed up just a little bit to sort of reflect the car's sportier nature. Inside, things are fairly different. The Vignale has a lot of extras which are nice to have, but not necessarily deal breakers, but they're interesting for a car in its segment. So you've got things like, for example, the seat I'm sitting on right now is upholstered in leather, but it also has a massage feature, which is something quite unusual at this car's price point and its placement. In this model, you've got the beautiful TFT screen with digitized instrumentation, and as you can see when you go through the drive modes, there's some nice graphical changes taking place there. Both of the cars have Ford's Sync 3 infotainment system, which is an older version of Ford's sort of proprietary infotainment units. It's perfectly functional. It has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay functionality. It's got satellite navigation in this model. It's good, but yeah, it's a little bit behind the times. In terms of the drivability, the Puma is unmistakably Ford. If you've driven Ford products before, Ford cars, you will be aware of what I'm talking about. There's a certain wieldiness, chunkiness, and a fluidity about the steering and the chassis that make their cars very entertaining and very engaging to drive. The power is provided by Ford's 1-litre EcoBoost 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine. It's an engine that has received lots of accolades. It's won its displacement category in World Car of the Year awards for several years. And it's a good little unit. It makes 92 kilowatts here and 170 Newton meters of torque. So it punches well above its weight. And it feels like it's ample for this car. Having said that, it's a little surprising that in a car that's so, involving to drive, it's connected to a very slick 7-speed dual clutch transmission, but you don't have a manual override either on the transmission or in the form of paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Again, it's not a deal breaker, but a little bit surprising. Ford makes some lofty claims as to this vehicle's fuel consumption. They claim 5.3 litres to the 100 kilometres, which is rather optimistic. I tried my best with this car to drive in a fairly sensible manner, and I seldom saw the fuel consumption drop beneath the low sevens to the 100 litres, which is reasonable, but not category leading. The boot in this car is slightly modular, which is quite handy. So it's got a removable floor, so you can have the boot's floor on its highest tier, which will give you a shade over 200 litres of space. Drop it to its lowest tier, that bumps the space up to a shade under 300 litres, and then underneath the boot board is a tray with a removable wet storage compartment, which is really handy for, well, at least I found it handy for things like putting my wetsuit, beach towels, sandy, mucky stuff that you don't want, you know, cluttering up the boot. Can be safely stored there. Another interesting extra with this car is the addition of Ford Pass, which is a level of connectivity in this vehicle, and that basically allows you via a proprietary smartphone app to control a number of functions remotely. So for example, you can lock or unlock your Puma from your phone wherever you are. You can even start the car and schedule a start at a certain time. There are other features, so you can see things like your fuel level, you can see your oil life. It will also allow you to do things like book services. It allows you to locate your vehicle using GPS. It's a handy little tool to have. What can I say after 6 months spent with a Puma? Well, it's impressed in many regards. Like I've said before, it is one of the more involving cars to drive in its category. It's a great looking car, I must say. Certainly in this model's Desert Island Blue, we've had lots of positive reactions to it. In Vignale spec, it is very well equipped, but it is also rather expensive. So there's some credence to maybe looking at the titanium model, which isn't that far removed in terms of what you get for your money. It's reasonably practical, but it's an enjoyable little car. We've thoroughly enjoyed our 6 months with it. It's up against some tough opposition, but we think that it's got enough unique character to stand on its own in the segment. And yeah, it's definitely worth it.